Okay, so what I wanted to do is to walk you through how to install Greenfoot onto your computer, whatever computer that happens to be, except it can't be your Chromebook. So Chromebook doesn't take outside applications, only things that you can run in the browser. This cannot. So you will need another computer in order to do that. Doesn't matter if it's a Mac, a PC, or Linux machine. Any of those things will be fine, but you will need to have a separate machine in which to install that. So I do have this guy here. This is going to bring you to this document, and this gives you all the screenshots and the explanations for what you need to do, where you need to click, all that kind of stuff. I think it's pretty specific and spelled out. Hopefully it makes some sense. I'm going to go through and install that on my machine and show you how to exactly what to do. So if a video helps, let's go there. So you're going to go to greenfoot.org. That brings you to this website. And I'm not totally sure why they do this, but at their door, you got to click on the Enter Greenfoot site. You would think you would be in the Greenfoot site, but no. So there's one more little step here. Now I'm inside Greenfoot. There's some neat things that this site has, and some really cool projects that other people have created. We'll dig around and look at some of those. But for right now, you're going to click on this Download tab. That will bring you to this page, and now you need to choose which operating system do you have, are you going to be downloading to. So if you're running a PC, it's going to be running Windows. Mac, if you have a Macintosh computer, then obviously click that. I doubt that you're running a Linux machine, but maybe. So you could do Ubuntu if you're doing that. You're going to click on this. Then it's going to download to your computer, probably to your downloads. I've already done that. So the next step is to go to that downloads folder. So here is the installer for the Greenfoot environment. I'm going to double click on that, I think. There we go. And that here's this wizard. Click on next, and it's basically click on next. I would recommend that you change it from just you to anyone who's running that machine. Just makes it a little easier if there's any kind of mom is installed on it or dad got on there, and you just did it for everybody, it'll be a little bit better. I'd also recommend that you keep this default where all these checkboxes are going to be selected. Click on next. You can decide where you want to have your program installed, probably the program files. That seems like a logical place. The Mac will figure out where to do it on its own. You can change it to some other location if you prefer. And now we're ready to do the install. There's a whole bunch of files and images and whatnot that will run. And when I give Windows permissions to install it, it's going to do that, get all those files copied to the right location, and we should be pretty close to being good to go. So it takes it a moment. And we can watch the green bar go across the screen. So there it is, and it's done. I believe that it made on the desktop, there should be a, get out of there. There we go, wrong key, there we go. There is, no, there it is. So here's my Greenfoot icon, so the shortcut. So I'll double click on that, and we can just get a little app going, just make sure that everything is good and you're off to the races. So I'm opening up the Greenfoot project, this is, yours isn't going to look like that. Yours is going to look, you're just going to have a world and an actor in it. So we'll go to a new project, and again, because I've already done this, this is what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to, I'm going to delete this. I'd like you to make a new folder. Gosh darn it. on your desktop. That will be for, that's because it's open, I think. All right, now can I do it? Sorry about this. There we go. So on your desktop, what I'd like you to do is to make a new folder, call it Greenfoot. And we'll open up Greenfoot again. This is what your screen is going to look like since you've not installed anything yet. You haven't run anything. So there's no world, there's no actors. This is kind of like before God created the heavens and the earth, right? So there's nothing, there's no world, there's nothing going on. So we're going to go to scenario and choose a new Java scenario. A Stride scenario is it's a block-based language. It still is Java, but it's block-based. You basically need to know Java, I think, in order to run a Stride scenario. So don't do that. Here's a new Java scenario. I am going to now navigate to that Greenfoot folder. In fact, it found it. So you can go to choose and go to the desktop. And here's the Greenfoot folder. That's the one I want. Select that folder. And now it's going to put it exactly in the right folder. The default, I believe, is to put it inside a folder that's a little harder to find if you need to get to some of those files. We'll just call this tester1, something like that, something pretty basic and generic for the start. Just to, again, all we're doing is just making sure that this is going to work. It's then going to create it. Now what happens is there's some starter code that comes with. So if you were watching, it made a couple worlds and it said, wait a second, and then it made my world and it actually compiled that. So right now, this is an empty, I do have a world, but there's just nothing in it at this particular point. I just want to, can we get something to happen on our screen? So the only other thing that you might want to do is we're going to create a new object, a new actor. So we have a world and we have a bunch of actors. So we're going to make a new subclass. I'm going to make a rocket. I do think for this, it is helpful to choose something that has a top-down view to it. That rocket isn't top-down, that's a side view, but because it's kind of in space, it can turn. If you did some of these animals, for example, they're going to be, when he turns, for example, he's going to be upside down, so it gets a little wonky, but we're in space, so it'll be all right. So I'm going to click on OK, and it made, there's the name that, again, I typed that, and there's a picture of that rocket. I can right click on it and make a new rocket and plop that rocket anywhere in my world, and you think, okay, now it's going to, I can run it. But nothing is happening when I'm running. Why? Because we haven't written any code to have this rocket go. If I double click on the rocket, here I can open up the code, and we'll talk about what's going on here. Here's this act method. Well, the act method is where the code that to define how an actor is going to act. All right. So I want him to move. I want him to go forth. All right. So I'm going to have this dot move, and I need to tell it how many cells should he move. I'm going to move 5. We'll just see what that does. Nothing very exciting. Just whenever you act, move. Now, if he gets to the end, there's nothing in there about turning. There's nothing about bouncing or any of that stuff. We're just going to get him to move across, and he's going to get stuck on the end, and that'll be the end. But that'll be enough for now. Notice that when I changed my code, he kind of became blurred. And the reason for that, then he disappeared. The reason is that because this has not been compiled yet. So now when I click on it, it is in fact to be compiled. This should have turned white. I'm not totally sure why it didn't. There it goes. I can do the same thing. I can create a new rocket, add that to my world. If I click on act, he just moved 5 pixels. Click a bunch of times, and he continues to move. If I click run, it's going to call this repeatedly, and he moves across. And he is going to stick at the end, but that'll work for now. Again, it's a little clunky. Got to right click, got to make a new rocket, and we'll change that so it happens automatically. But hey, you got something to move on a screen. That's pretty quick. So try that out, see if that works. Hopefully everything is all good, and let me know if you have any questions.